Call the regular meeting of the Upshur County Commission to order, and we'll begin with a moment of silent meditation and prayer. As we bow our heads, let's remember Mingo County Sheriff Eugene Crum and his family and all the folks of Mingo County. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll hold off on the reading of the minutes for a while and go ahead and start with our proclamation designating April 2013 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So, morning.
I'm Samantha Dalton, and I'm from Women's Aid in Crisis. And today I'm going to read the proclamation about Sexual Assault Awareness Month. But first, I'd like to give you a brochure with just some information in it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It's time to talk about it. To talk early, talk often, prevent sexual violence. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month is intended to draw attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and impacts every community member of Upshur County, and whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment impact our community as seen by statistics indicating that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men will be raped at some point in their lives. Whereas child sexual abuse prevention must be a priority to confront the reality that 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience a sexual assault before the age of 18. Whereas we must work together to educate our community about sexual violence prevention, supporting survivors, and speaking out against harmful attitudes and actions. Whereas with leadership, dedication, and encouragement, there is evidence that we can be successful in preventing sexual violence in Upshur County through increased education, awareness, and community involvement. Whereas Upshur County strongly supports the efforts of national, state, and local partners and of every citizen to actively engage in public and private efforts to prevent sexual violence. It's time for all of us to start conversations, take appropriate action, and support one another to create a safer environment for all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Upshur County join advocates and communities across the country in playing an active role to prevent sexual violence. Along with the United States government and state of West Virginia, we do hereby proclaim April 2013 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
We have a motion. We approve the proclamation as read.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what you all do and
At Women's Aid in Crisis, we provide support services for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. We go with them to do sexual assault exams. We're there to get protective orders. We assist them in the legal aspects, talking to victim advocate with the prosecuting attorney's office. We also provide counseling services. We have a shelter available, and we work within 6 different counties.
okay. Any questions? Certainly appreciate your efforts and your work,
Thank you.
and glad to make this proclamation.
Thank you.
Do we want to get a picture? Okay, our next appointment is at 9:30, and it's about 10 after 9, so I think, Jackie, if you'd like to come up and start reading the minutes, we'll...
The County Commission of Upshur County, West Virginia held their regular meeting at the Courthouse Annex on Thursday, March 28, 2013 at 9 a.m. Donnie Tenney called the meeting to order. There were present Donnie Tenney, Commissioner, J.C. Rafferty, Commissioner, Troy Brady, Commissioner, William Parker, County Administrator, Megan Pomeroy, Assistant County Administrator, and Jacqueline Dinklocker, Secretary. The meeting began with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All motions passed unanimously unless otherwise stated. After reading of the minutes on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved the regular meeting minutes of March 21, 2013 as submitted. Joyce Harris Thacker, Upshur County Solid Waste Authority Chairperson, appeared before the commission and provided a review of the Make It Shine proclamation. The proclamation encourages Upshur County residents to participate in programs such as Adopt a Highway, Adopt a Spot, to enhance the health and safety of the community and promotes a cleaner environment. After discussion on motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Troy Brady, the commission approved the commission to sign the proclamation designating April as Make It Shine Month in Upshur County. Ms. Harris Thacker and Burl Smith, UCSWA board member, provided an update on programs and activities. William Parker, Upshur County resident, appeared before the commission on behalf of himself and Cheryl J. Parker, his stepmother, concerning probate matters relating to the estate of Kenneth Parker, deceased. Items of concern include, number one, the requirement of the Office of the County Clerk to obtain 2 witnesses to the signature on a holographic will, and a requirement of testimony of the mental state of the author of the will at the time it was written. Mr. Parker argued that according to West Virginia Code, the holographic will does not need to be witnessed to make it a legal document. Upshur County Clerk Debbie Thacker Wilfong and attorneys Terry Reed, Daya Wright, and Tom O'Neill defended the requirement of obtaining witnesses to testify that the handwriting on the will was submitted is the actual handwriting of the decedent. Mr. Parker will obtain witness affidavits to verify that the handwriting on the document is in the decedent's own handwriting. Mr. Parker advised that he will continue to research this matter, and if it is determined that affidavits are not required, a request will be made to remove them from the file. Ms. Wilfong conceded that she provided the wrong form, and the Parkers did not need to prove the mental state of Kenneth Parker. Ms. Wilfong will remove verification of mental capacity requirement from forms. Number 2, the requirement of a bank statement showing the bank balances on the day of death. Mr. Parker argued that a bank statement of balance on the day of death is not an accurate and true accounting of funds due to outstanding deposits and/or checks. Attorney Terry Reed stated that funds justification would be provided during settlement of the estate. Mr. Parker will provide balance statements as current in November 2012. Number 3, the county clerk's conversation with employers and others concerning estate matters. Mr. Reed pointed out that Ms. Wilfong's conversations outside of public meeting with Mr. Parker's employees were in their capacity as the county commission and not as Mr. Parker's employers. The conversation with law enforcement personnel was not addressed. And number 4, security issues of keeping non-probate listings and length of time to keep them. Mr. Parker contended that non-probate listings are not secure and anyone can have access to the documents. In addition, West Virginia Code does not require keeping the records indefinitely. West Virginia Code does not address a time frame. Ms. Wilfong stated that there is a lock on the door where the records are kept, but conceded that the area is not necessarily secure. Ms. Wilfong will provide more security for the records. Attorney Daya Wright defended keeping the records for an extended period of time, as the clerk's keeping the documents may be the only source of the records in case of the estate is challenged. Virgil Miller, Chief Deputy of Administration, appeared before the commission and submitted an invoice in the amount of $2,535 on behalf of Walt St. Clair for the care and upkeep of a horse that was seized in a humane case. The owner of the horse has since paid all fines associated with the animal cruelty charges and has relinquished ownership to the county. The horse, named Fancy, is now in good health and with 2 parties interested in adoption. The commission agreed that selling Fancy would not significantly reimburse any associated costs, and any further efforts to obtain payment for care and upkeep would need to be pursued through a civil suit. After discussion by general consent rule, the commission approved to release Fancy for adoption and for payment of Mr. St. Clair's invoice dated through March 5, 2013, with the addition of any further costs until Fancy is adopted. The commission recessed at 10:30 a.m. The commission reconvened at 10:45 a.m. Megan Pomeroy provided a review of the West Virginia Division of Justice and Community Services Court Security Fund grant application in the amount of $38,176. After discussion, a motion by Troy Brady, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the commission approved and authorized the president to sign the grant contract and related documents. Funds will be used to purchase cameras and security equipment. William Parker provided a review of the West Virginia Development Office Governor's Community Participation Grant in the amount of $5,000. After discussion, a motion by Troy Brady, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the commission approved and authorized the president to sign the grant contract and related documents. Funds will be used for the purchase of 2 early literacy stations for the Upshur County Library. James Ferry, Office of Emergency Management Director, appeared before the commission, requested to use the Upshur County parking lot located at 58 South Locust Street or the area in front of the maintenance shop to set up a first aid cooling station during Strawberry Festival. After discussion, a motion by Troy Brady, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the commission approved the request to use the gravel lot. William Parker advised Mr. Ferry to follow up with Strawberry Festival Committee. After discussion, a motion by Troy Brady, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the commission approved Travis Hume and Hope Moore as volunteers for the Lewis Upshur Animal Control Facility as recommended by Janella Cochran, Facility Director. After discussion, a motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Troy Brady, the commission approved the request from Mid-State Soccer Club to use Pringle Tree Park for practice on Monday through Thursday evenings from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. from March 1 through May 31, 2013. The request is a modification of the request, which was approved at the February 14, 2013 Commission meeting, with the addition of Monday. The soccer club has provided insurance documentation. The Commission reviewed the following for your information items. Number 1, notice of public hearing, amendment to enhanced 911 ordinances, 11 a.m. on Thursday, April 4, 2013, increase from current monthly fee of $2.65 to residential, $4.50, business and Centrex, $6.50. Number 2, environmental report on proposed extensions to the water distribution system for the Adrian Public Service District of Upshur County, prepared by Horner Brothers Engineers. Number 3, agendas and/or notices of meetings as listed. Number 4, meeting minutes and/or financial reports as listed. Number 5, meetings as listed. Number 6, appointments needed or upcoming as listed. The Commission approved all invoices for payment. The Commission approved all vacation orders. The Commission approved the following settlements as listed. The Commission approved the following requests to attend meetings as listed. The Commission approved the following consolidations of land tracts as listed. With no further business, on motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission meeting adjourned at 11:30 a.m.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes as read? Not, I'll ask for a motion to be approved as such.
I'll move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do you want to go ahead and read the rest of them? We've got 10 minutes before we can have our next...
Okay, budget meetings. During the month of March 2013, the Upshur County Commission conducted budget meetings per the following schedule as listed. The Upshur County Commission conducted a special meeting beginning at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, March 26, 2013, to consider approval of the budget for fiscal year 2013-2014. After discussion and review, on motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved the budget and affixed their signatures to the various levy page and/or budget documents. William Parker, County Administrator, will forward to the Office of the County Clerk so that Debbie Thacker Wilfong, Clerk of County Commission, may submit the budget document to the Office of the State Auditor. William Parker will forward necessary information and documentation for publication by the Record Delta newspaper. At 11 a.m., the Commission adjourned the budget meeting until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, April 16, 2013.
Any additions to or corrections to the minutes as read? Not, I'll ask for a motion to be approved as such.
I'll move.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And we'll do our board review later. It's pretty lengthy. So I think we can. Well, we still have about 7 minutes. So we'll go down through our list of items to do and possible approval. The first is to authorize the President to sign notification of termination of coverage under National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System general permit for stormwater discharge associated with construction activity at the Upshur County Wellness Center complex. Permit registration number is given as of August 23rd, 2012 on page 5. That's our permit we had to get for the work we did out at the wellness complex. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Parker?
No, sir.
Okay, so we just need a motion to sign notice of termination, authorize the President to sign this document.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second item is authorize the President to sign letter of response to the Office of State Auditor regarding the coal severance fund balance as of June 30, 2013. You might elaborate on that, Mr. Parker.
As part of the budget process, the Office of the State Auditor must approve the budget that you submit the levy estimate according to certain tests they do. And then they have areas they may question or sometimes question, and one of them is if you have a unassigned fund balance greater than 25% of the overall total of that fund. The letter that you received stated that they were talking about the general county fund balance, which is not correct. When I talked to Shelley Humphrey, she said that should have been referenced the coal severance fund balance because we are projecting $100,000 as of June the 30th in the fund balance, and we're only projecting $47,500 in revenue. Thus, the fund balance as of the end of the fiscal year is significantly above the 25% threshold that they sometimes, that they will question. And the letter is in response to that due to the closure of a mine and reduction in coal severance revenue, not only in Upshur County but across the state, that we've lowered our estimated income.
Okay. Any questions on that? If not, then I would ask for a motion to authorize the President to sign the letter of response.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is authorize the President to sign quote from Global Science Technologies for a Dell PowerEdge T320 server.
This has to do with our information, GIS information for addressing and mapping, as well as the assessor's office. We've been talking to Brian Clem because the assessor's office utilizes GST as well as the commission office for the addressing and mapping. And as I understand it, the assessor's office will be migrating to an upgrade of the ARC Editor GIS programs, and our server is approximately 7 or 8 years old now, and it needs replaced. And this will allow us also to provide the updates. Right now, due to the procedures that are required, we have to go through Landmark Forestry to get the updates to our 911 system. With this server, we'll be able to do that directly, give them a disk and download that disk and give it to the 911 communication center directly. But that's the quote is $5,050.42.
And the assessors has to be upgraded before ours can be upgraded, is that correct? I mean, it has to be in tandem?
Well, we've upgraded it from, to the ARC Editor 10 whatever version, and they're on ARC Editor 9 something version, and it's having trouble communicating back and forth because of the different versions, even though it's the same program system. And the server will approve that process when they upgrade, as well as give us the additional capabilities that we need to get the system, or get the updates to the 911 communications off the system. And then in addition, our server's 7 or 8 years old at this point.
So are we upgrading ours higher than the 10, or just upgrading the assessors?
We've already upgraded our program.
Okay.
In the commission office. And the assessor's office is upgrading their program. This is upgrading the server that both of them communicate with and store the information on.
Okay, any questions, gentlemen? Okay, then I'd ask for a motion to authorize the president to sign the quote from GST.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Brady likes me to do the ones that cost money to the county.
He doesn't oppose them, so that means he's in favor of them.
Yeah.
Okay, next item is approval of intern for Braxton location of Community Corrections Program, Kirsta L.E. Simpter. And I assume this request came from them and with
Just
their
came from
approval?
Micah,
Okay.
the director of the program.
Do we have a motion to approve this volunteer or intern?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
This young lady's attending Glenville State College and majoring in criminal justice programs.
Okay. Next item is resignation. Christina Loudon Edwards, Deputy County Clerk, last day of employment, April the 12th, 2013. This is a request from our county clerk's office to approve this resignation, so I would ask for a motion to approve the resignation.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. We have correspondence from M. Gregory Hefner, Manager of External Affairs with Mon Power, a First Energy Company, regarding Dorico wind storm and Hurricane Sandy. We'd sent a letter expressing concerns of the power outages and asking the power company to do everything they could to keep their right-of-ways clear, and they responded to that part of it was the two unprecedented storms, and that they agreed that that needed to be done, and if they did an extensive amount, it would probably raise everyone's electric bill. So the one thing affects the other. So at this time, it is 9:30, and we have Lieutenant Joey Baxa, Buchanan Fire Department, representing and appearing on behalf of the Upshur County Firefighters Association. Morning, Joey.
Good morning, gentlemen. Before I get started here, I'm going to hand you guys each just an outline of what I'm going to cover. If you guys want to hand them down, I got one here for you too, really. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak here this morning, and the association appreciates it. I'd like to thank each of you also for the job that you do, as it is in fire service. It's a thankless position, and it seems like everybody's always asking for something. I can promise this morning is probably going to be no different. We want to take this time. We've got some problems in the fire service, and it's not just locally, it's nationwide. And we want to take this time to try to address some of these problems, but we need the cooperation of the commission. And I know we've probably talked to each of you individually at times about things like this, but we're trying to set the plans into action, and we need your all's help. As you introduced me, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lieutenant Joey Bax of the Buchanan Fire Department, appearing today on behalf of the Upshur County Firefighters Association. We're here today again just to open up the dialogue and to make this county as safe as possible as we can. Excuse me for my speech, I'm a little tired. We've been up since 2:30 this morning. We had another fire last night. So today the issues I'm bringing before you are all hindering the response of our fire departments. They're hindering the dispatch capabilities. They're making us less efficient. And this is your fire service I'm talking about. Whenever I say your fire service, I'm saying this because this is the fire service that not only protects you and your citizens, but you all are responsible for seeing to it that there is adequate fire protection for this county. The first of these issues is going to be the one that's going to take the longest for me to explain. I'm going to try to go into a little bit of detail so everybody here understands what I'm asking for. This was first brought up just singly by the Buchanan Fire Department back in 2011. The whole mapping and addressing thing was just getting started then. We realized the potential that this had to help us. We came to first we started talking with Terry Jo. Terry Jo realized the tremendous benefit. She walked me through everything she had. But we needed the blessing of the commission then. I'm not sure what happened that fell on the wayside, but it's been brought up by other county departments now, and all 7 departments are together on this. We feel that this is something that could really help us. Not just in fires, in everything. This information, the mapping, would allow us to pre-plan roadway incidents. We can decide where we're going to direct traffic beforehand. Brush fires, we can get on there and we can see while we're on scene where this fire's headed, what we need to protect. Hazmat incidents, we can decide what places we need to evacuate. We can get in our book all the time and see, hey, we need to evacuate a half-mile radius. What's a half-mile radius? We don't know. If we have this information to put in our laptops, which is right here, Buchanan Fire Department right now is the only one that has one of these in service. That's largely in part because we have other uses for it other than the mapping. We have a lot of commercial and industry, and we keep our pre-plans in here for those buildings. It's so very important that you all understand why this information is necessary for us to have both at the station for training, en route, and after action and while on scene, at our fingertips whenever we need it. It'll help this county be safer, our response more efficient, and make us more proficient on scene. Due to recent talk, as I said before, this has all come about due to recent talks with the leadership of other departments through the association. But also, it's became an issue nationally because of the outcry for the safety of our first responders and the citizens alike. Due to this, there's been the 16 life safety initiatives put forth by the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Number 8 of these life safety initiatives is technology, and it goes more forward to addressing GPS use and mapping. This is no different. This is what we're asking for us to use to protect our lives and to help protect the citizens of the county. Using knowledge that's being paid for using their tax dollars and fees that you're collecting. Technology is just the application of knowledge. And gentlemen, you as the county hold that knowledge right now, and we're just asking to be able to apply it for the good of the county. Before I go much further, I already know the common rebuttal to this that everybody has at the fire service, emergency services in general. Everybody's afraid of giving them new technology, of giving them new tools because of liability. I totally understand where you're coming from. All these guys sitting here today understand that as well. But if the fire chief's sitting here, the firefighters sitting here, didn't let that hamper their response, there'd be no fire chiefs. There'd be no firefighters. We wouldn't help one another. So please don't send that message. Work with us in some fashion. Don't send us that message that you're not going to help us help others because of fear of legal litigation. I can not only hope that you'll share this information with us, but there's a use for it not just in the fire service. Our dispatch center should be provided with the same information as I'm sure they already have been. The Office of Emergency Management should be. They can use it tremendously. So can Upshur County EMS and all law enforcement agencies. This is not just a fire service issue. This is an issue across emergency services. We're all going through a tough transition right now, as I know you all are. You've got a very important meeting coming up at 11 o'clock with the 911 fees, and a lot of that issue relates to the addressing and mapping and the costs occurred with it. But with the proper tools given to us, we can make this transition much smoother, much easier, and it will help us know where we're going in the case of an emergency. I know you all at some point, some of you have even had experience in law enforcement, have had to wait on a police officer, have had to wait on an ambulance, have had to wait on a fire truck. Wouldn't you want to know that they are equipped with the knowledge to get them there the quickest and handle the event the safest and the most efficient way they can? So gentlemen, what I'm asking for today is just for your cooperation. And granted, this is the first of 3 matters, so bear with me. I'm asking for your cooperation. In some form, equip us with this information. I understand that maybe you have some issues with the addresses right now. We don't need all that right this moment. We'd like to have in the future, but if you have issues with that, by all means, get your bugs and get your kinks worked out. But if we can just have the base layers, the mapping that will allow us to enter in information and plug it into that map as to what bridge has a certain weight capacity on it. There was just a ladder truck in the southern part of the state fall through a bridge. Part of that was because they weren't aware that ladder truck can cross that bridge. We'll be able to put in there where our fire hydrants are. This morning, there was some question about where the fire hydrant was on our way to the fire. When you want to know when our fire department's responding to your house, they can find out exactly where that hydrant is, know how much water it flows, how much PSI it's putting off. This information is critical. And while right now we're relying on books that are thick, and I should have brought them with me this morning to show you,
I've seen them.
That's difficult. That's very difficult, especially when you're going down the road, trying to put your gear on and trying to get there and do your job. So gentlemen, can we work this out in some fashion? I'm just asking if we can't have the addressing, can we at least have the mapping with the road names on it so that we can start plugging our information in to do our job safer and more efficient?
Joey, I'd talked with Chief Tacey several times about this in the last year or so. And it was, again, as I sit here, my understanding was that we would make it available to the department. Mm-hmm. But there was an insurance issue with regards to protecting the county should false information or misinformation be put into the program, and that you responding to that information might have had an error, or something might have happened that would have created a liability situation. But it also was my understanding at the time that we were not opposed, and see if I'm correct on this, we were not opposed to that transfer of the information to the city and to the other departments, but that it was a matter where the city would have had to take out a insurance, I use the word insurance policy, which would protect us in the event of some misinformation being put into the system that resulted in a loss of some either property or something else. That seems to me, at least in my understanding of it, to be a simple thing, but I know that Mitch had made some inquiries of the insurance carrier, and that there was some issue there, that the insurance carrier was, maybe you can correct me or give me some direction on that in terms of how that came out.
Can I ask something of the 3 of you first before we go on about that? Right now, I'm not representing the city of Buchanan. I don't want to get into that issue, okay? But if that's keeping you from giving it to the Buchanan Fire Department because it's a city-county government thing, don't penalize the other 6 departments because of that for us. They're covering the outer lying areas more so than what we are. While we also respond to those areas, don't penalize them just because of that. At least give them that data. At least give them that advantage. We can work that out between the city and the county later if we have to. But we got to move forward. This technology's here. Not everybody around us, but a lot of the departments around us are using it. And if we don't find a way to move forward, I'm afraid we're going to become stagnant, as you're going to find in some of the next 2 things that I'm approaching you about. Same things happen. We're 2013 now. This started in 2011. We've got to have some sort of action.
There's a simple memorandum of agreement or understanding that needs to be signed by whatever legal entity governs the fire department. Now, the fire departments at outside the corporation level are their own legal entity and can enter into that agreement. As I understand it, the city of Buchanan provides the coverage for the Buchanan Fire Department. And it's just a matter, it's not really another policy, it's a matter of certificate of insurance, naming the Upshur County Commission as an additional insured. And that is routinely done across the country every day as a course of business.
So what has been the holdup? I mean, I was never able to understand what the reasoning behind reluctance or
that agreement being approved by the city of Buchanan and a certificate of insurance being provided to the Upshur County Commission, listing us as an additional insured.
By their insurance carrier.
Yes.
To me, at the time, when we discussed it, it seemed like a very simple thing to, because we
We agreed,
Yeah,
we agreed to give the
give the information over.
that was the only thing that needed to be done, and
Is the Upshur County Firefighters Association considered a self-entity that's covered by themselves, or whatever you're
I don't
asking?
know, I don't think, you would, I don't know if you have liability coverage as a fire association. I would doubt it. I would assume not. And then it's, who provides, who do you provide it to? And that's some of the information that's covered in that agreement, whether it be with the city of Buchanan, Adrian, or whoever, is, we understand this information and that that legal entity would not provide it to another entity without approval of the Upshur County Commission. It's just a fairly standard practice when you pass out information from one agency to another, and a certificate of insurance is, I mean, for us, I could have one generated in 5 minutes just by an email.
Right.
And in the mail, and a copy attached to an email, and have it back in 5 minutes. So I don't know, since the city's changing insurance carriers, if it'll be easier, harder, don't have any idea. I know for us, it's a very simple process, and doesn't cost us anything. It's just a matter of contacting our insurance provider and getting the certificate of insurance issued, and whether they're listed as an additional insured, lost payee, or whatever the case may be. And for us, it's rather easy to accomplish that. And our insurance provider, the West Virginia County's Risk Pool, is the one that's recommending that we have this agreement in place and a certificate of insurance in place, naming the Upshur County Commission as additional insured. They're the ones that we look to for that guidance in these matters.
I understand wholeheartedly what you're saying, but one thing that really disturbs me about this whole thing and this whole issue is this information is already being used for a response. If the 911 center is dispatching off of the addresses, the same thing could happen through there. What if the information they give us through the same information you'd be sharing with us is wrong? I mean, we're already using the information. That's one thing that really disturbs me about the whole thing is it's just a matter of it being in a different place and us being able to access it differently.
Well, it's not really just that. It's a matter, we can give you the information, that's no problem. It's the next step is what you do and massage and, verify or modify that data.
Right.
That's where that's why we need the agreement that if, for example, I'm not saying, but if the city, Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department, City Buchanan, whoever, would, okay, we've got this data, now we're going to adjust it a little bit, and we're going to give it to XYZ, fire company out here, and that adjustment's incorrect, then that agreement protects the county commission that you won't give it to somebody else without our approval.
Right.
And if you do, then that certificate of insurance protects us because we're additional insured on your liability because you didn't give the original data.
Right.
You give modified data. Not saying that would ever happen.
No, I understand wholeheartedly what you're saying. I understand the whole memorandum of understanding process.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask one thing then. Could you get a memorandum of understanding for each of the 7 departments?
Yeah, we could have that before the end of the day.
If you would do that, I'd appreciate it, and we'll go from there on that matter. How about that?
Mitch, did you want to
Assuming the
finish?
commission agrees, I don't think they have any problem with it because they've already approved.
Right, we've already approved it.
I don't know of any other departments that's requested that so far.
No, I understand that.
I mean, I think Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department, or Buchanan Fire Department was the only one that had
We
requested.
were the
so
only
far.
one this time,
Yeah.
but now all 7 departments would like to have access to it if not possible. That's why I'm here today.
Going back 6 months or a year when we discussed this, when Mitch and I discussed it, there was never any question that we would instruct Terry Joe to transfer the information over to you, as well as the updates. I think there was some concern that the updates might not be timely, but I talked to Terry Joe, and she said that, so we were just basically waiting for the city
Right.
to comply with our request for the insurance. Mitch, you had a question or wanted to say something?
Well, I did not interrupt, Judge, but part of the problem then was we were requested to get a rider on our insurance, and that was going to cost us money. in my mind and in our administration's mind, it didn't seem right that we would have to pay insurance on something that we already paid to help to get one way or the other. And the other thing is, when the Buchanan Fire Department goes to the Brushy, I'm just going to use South Brushy for, that is the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department. That is not this, that has nothing to do with the city of Buchanan. And that's where we need the information most. If you're talking about the fire department, it's Buchanan Fire Department, we know where our hydrants are in the city. There's not a bridge in the city the fire department's going to fall through. I mean, we can handle that. It's out in the rural areas. So it's beneficial to the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department, not, we're not here for the city of Buchanan, we're here today for the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department. And the reason we did was they wanted to buy our insurance, and it just, in my mind, maybe
When you say our insurance, you mean the city of Buchanan?
Buchanan Fire Department.
Right.
General insurance being the volunteer
Right.
and the city insurance. But in my mind, the fire service is a branch of county government. You know, the state code, we can go there or not, you're required to provide fire protection. And in my mind, our fire departments are a branch of the county government, and this information is there. And I just didn't make sense to me to have to pay additional money for an insurance policy to get information that was there.
You don't have to pay additional money for an insurance policy unless your insurance carriers require it. And we're not requiring that at the county commission. The county commission is not requiring that. The only thing the county commission requires is a certificate of insurance and to be listed as an additional insured on your liability policy. That's all that we require.
Our insurance carrier told us to list you as an additional insured was an increase in premium.
That's them, not us. I understand. For us, our insurance provider, we have no increase through the West. We can list everybody in this room if they have a relationship with the Upshur County Commission as an additional insured on our liability, and it won't cost us another penny.
I noticed Councilman Pugh is in the room present. Maybe you could make some inquiry of yours.
I was just going to suggest to Chief Casey that he's scheduled to speak tonight at the city council meeting, and if he wants to bring this up before then, but I understand that this is not, as he said, a Buchanan Fire Department situation. It's a volunteer fire department that is a county department. And I don't see why that cannot be included in the forms that Mr. Parker is going to get from the outlying agencies and include that Buchanan Fire Department, volunteer fire department along with those.
Yeah, we'll include all the volunteer fire departments.
Include that, and perhaps that would take care of the situation.
Now, when I say we're going to get that form to them, we will require a certificate of insurance from all the volunteer fire departments.
And why is Buchanan's certificate different than the other?
It's not that I know of. I mean, I don't know who, I think all the volunteer fire departments have the same insurance provider. I do not. I hear some head shaking no there.
Are there two separate policies, Mitch, on that? One for the city department, one for the volunteer fire department?
In some instances, yes.
Which one would this be, the volunteer fire department insurance, and is that the one that requires?
Our liability insurance is through VFIS, and that's who the city has their liability insurance through too. Both entities are covered under VFIS.
Remember how much the additional policy was?
No, I don't remember.
$100, $200?
I can't remember.
Well, even if it's that, you gentlemen do need this information. I can see where it's very, very valuable to the outlying departments. And I think that if you'll come forward tonight, Mitch, with this information, I'll support you 100% what you do. If we need to do something, I'll suggest that the city picks up the tab for that particular increase. But I think it can be resolved mainly by just considering every department except for the in-city Buchanan department.
Okay, the question I have though, Lieutenant Baxter, Joey, the equipment that this information would be transmitted to is in possession of a city department?
It
Or
is
is
the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department pays
That's
for
the
this
computer
out of
that when you held
volunteer
her
funds, yes.
laptop?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is property of the county volunteer department
Yes.
as opposed to
Yes.
the
Yes.
city of Buchanan?
Yes.
That might make an issue difference, I don't know.
No, I mean, it's a matter of just getting an agreement with whatever XYZ fire department, volunteer fire department, or the Buchanan Fire Department, or all the above. And getting that agreement, which we can get to everybody today, And then the request will be for a certificate of insurance from your liability carrier listing the Upshur County Commission as an additional insured. Once we have that signed agreement, certificate of insurance, here's your disc.
Okay.
No problem.
Go ahead, Benny.
Yeah, back, it's been quite a few years ago when the Akron Fire Department got into hazmat. We had to come up here and sign, because we were the Upshur County hazmat team. We had to come up here and sign a paper as being a representative of the county to be covered under the county liability policy, because we were responding in the county with hazardous material. Would that not cover the same thing that being put on the county's policy now as being covered underneath your liability policy, if we would sign the same thing?
No, the West Virginia County's risk pool, I mean, they're not going to be providing.
They wanted the risk pool back then, okay, so.
Yeah, we were, as a matter of
I
fact.
think part of Benny's question is kind of the same thing that's run through my mind.
You're-
Why can't you all add us as an additional rider since you're giving us the information in case we do something with it?
Because we don't have management and control of the department. You know, like you were talking about the 911 center, the Upshur County Commission has the management and control responsibility of the 911 center. The Upshur County Commission does not have management and control responsibility of any volunteer fire department. So that's why it has to be a standalone separate agreement. In the, if I remember, the hazmat situation is the individuals were coming from 1, 2, 3 different departments possibly, I don't remember, and not all one department would necessarily be responding, so we had to look for a way to cover liability-wise. It didn't give them protection themselves for workers' comp injuries or anything like that. It's just a liability protection. At that point, we worked through, because our policy does cover volunteers that are approved by the commission. For example, this intern that we just approved for the Braxton location, community corrections. That's one reason we require that to come before the county commission, is now she will be covered by our liability policy for anything that she performs as a result of the community corrections program. That hazmat team was a county team that would be responding, you know, to overall county incidents, and we had to look at a way to get liability coverage for those members to accomplish that. We cannot do that in this situation with individual fire departments. It's because of the management and control responsibility and the standalone legal entity of the volunteer fire departments. It's a simple process for us. I don't know, it may not be as simple on your end to get a certificate of insurance listing us as an additional insured, but I wouldn't see why that would be difficult. There may be a $50 or $100 cost associated with that. If it would be more than that, I don't know why it would be. Just administrative cost to issue the permit or to issue the certificate.
Okay.
Is this I mean, if the insurance company requires it, can there be I know you said you give everybody a paper here at the end of the day, but stating that, you know, from your insurance carrier that this is what has to be done, maybe they'll look a little more favorable on it being coming from another insurance carrier to an insurance carrier. And also, will it be just a specifically naming the Upshur County Commission as an additional insured based on the response of us using that information? In other words, we don't want you to be an additional insured, all of a sudden something comes up and it doesn't involve this, it involves another liability, and they think they got to pay you all too. You know what I'm saying?
The only way that would be, you know, the Upshur County Commission coming into a suit, being brought into a suit, as an example would be, you know, I'll use myself as an example. I'm in Ella Moore's area. If Ella Moore, for some reason, received this data and modified it, screwed up my address at 97 River Church Road and went down Poe Road for some reason, and then if I would bring action against the Ella Moore Fire Department, then the county commission is protected as a result of being listed as an additional insured, because Elmore used the data that was provided by the Upshur County Commission, the originating agency. Now, for example, the same situation, and we have, a Mack truck, and the truck breaks down, and I sue Elmore Fire Department and the Mack truck manufacturer. County Commission's not involved in that because we had nothing to do with manufacturing that truck. It's just what we're involved in. It's not that we would be as an additional insured. The only time additional insured kicks in is if there is a suit brought forth and the County Commission is named because of the information that was provided originally.
So let's say that if the information provided, we don't alter or change it, and something is wrong with the information, the lawsuit is brought, because we use the information, you all dispatch the same information, the lawsuit's brought, would our fire department be left out of it, being that it was not altered?
I'm sure the Adrian Volunteer Fire Department and the Upshur County Commission would both be sued by whoever.
I understand that.
And your insurance company would make an argument that we did not modify the data, therefore, Judge, please dismiss us from the suit, and that would be a court decision at that point.
Okay. Let's move on. We beat that one to death. And I really am sorry. I didn't mean to turn this into a city-county thing by no means, so
That's why we're here, Joey.
let's understand that, okay?
I just think we need to work on that situation. Whatever needs to be done, we need to get that information to the fire departments as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
And if it's today, it just tickles me to death. But whatever needs to be done, you all need to have that information. We spent several $1,000s getting that information. We have it, and we're not going to give it to you, which causes problems to all citizens in Upshur County. I just think if we have it, we need to get it to you as soon as possible.
I appreciate that. All right, the next couple things will go much quicker, I promise, or at least I foresee them as going much quicker. Next item is just another piece of technology. As we've moved forward over the years, and a lot of this deals not just with us, but with our surroundings and the buildings that we're in, like today. I've never been dispatched to something in here, but our pagers don't pick up in certain buildings. We're having problems with guys getting the pages. Maybe they can't have their pager on them in certain areas, but everybody carries a cell phone with them. And what the Upshur County Fire Departments are trying to move towards is dispatch via text message on people's cell phones. Not to replace pagers and not to replace radios, but as an additional tool. Wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for us running into a little bit of a hiccup. We have found that there may be the possibility that the 911 center is not equipped to handle this. And we don't think it's anything crazy or big that needs to be done, but we just need the cooperation of you guys to find out what needs to be done so we can work towards finding out how we're going to foot the bill if something needs to be put in there to get this moving forward. We had a fire last night. I've done heard guys say, well, I didn't get it. Or if we have a fire this afternoon, we have guys that work at Walmart, guys that are in Lowe's. Our pagers don't pick up in those areas. It'll help that. It can be a cheaper alternative than buying and maintaining a bunch of radios and pagers. If you have somebody that always has their cell phone on them, maybe you don't need to furnish them a pager. Some of these systems even allow the firemen to let their station or the dispatch center know by a simple text message back, yes, I'm responding. So you know, or they know how many guys they have coming. If after 2 or 3 pages they don't get a reply, they know that they need to get more help coming if it's warranted for the situation. This can also help eliminate some unnecessary radio traffic. Whenever that dispatch is put out on text message, they can read that however many times they want. If they need directions somewhere, they know it. If they need to know what's going on, it's there. All this is done and does not add any more work to the dispatchers. Whenever they hit that enter button, whenever they enter that information in their CAD system, it automatically is sent out by the computer system. It would absolutely, actually probably make their job a lot easier because they wouldn't have personal vehicles radioing in. Comm center, what was that traffic? Comm center, where was those directions? Comm center, this is 1157, what do we have? It would eliminate all that. So I'm just asking for your all's cooperation today and allow us to investigate in that further, allow some of us to have some conversations with Steve Linger at the 911 center and open up the dialogue to get this going, get this boat moving. I really feel by the end of the year we'll have this will be in operation if we get full cooperation from everybody.
I think, Steve, is he going to be able to come down to 11?
Haven't talked to him this morning, I do not know.
It certainly, I mean, I don't know what will be involved in allowing the comm center to do that, but we'll certainly talk to Steve.
It's a matter of probably getting with our equipment CAD manufacturer vendor, which is Emergitech, seeing, if it has the capabilities or if there's a component we need to add on to it.
Right.
That'd be probably fairly easy to do. I'm just assuming the funding would come from your 911 fee is where the funding would come from.
But I could see where that could be very beneficial.
Absolutely, it has a lot of benefit.
Ron?
Is this like a reverse 911 call?
I'm not sure I understand what you're...
California, where my brother-in-law lives in California, and when they had the fires out there, came through their neighborhood at 2 o'clock in the morning, their phones rang directly from the San Diego County Emergency Center. And it was a reverse 911 coming from the 911 center, alerting them that they need to get out of their houses, they're in the danger. Would this be similar to that coming from the 911 center?
This is not.
Select phones?
Yeah. It's not going to the public. This information is not meant to be something that is available to the public. That is something like Nixle you may have heard used. I know the Buchanan Police Department has used that in the past, and some other programs to alert the public to dangers or to things that they need to be aware of. This is for first responders.
Right, but this is
the same as them.
A certain set of phone numbers,
Yes,
not everybody.
absolutely. This is the same thing as them hitting that button that sets off the tones on our pager. Only this time it will go to our cell phone and also to the pager still. We would not eliminate that technology by no means. It's not a replacement at this time. Maybe in the future, but it's not this time.
Well, we can talk to Steve today about that and see what would be involved.
Good deal. The last thing, and this is another thing, it's not going to cost any funds that haven't already been approved. It's been several months ago. We've been told multiple times that the funding has been approved, probably through the 911 fees, to replace the phone line from the 911 center to our radio towers with a wireless link. This was approved and approached because we have had several instances where we've lost communications, and either comm centers had to send somebody to our fire station at Buchanan to page people out, which then we got the problem it may not reach the Banks District Volunteer Fire Department or Selbyville. It's a bad situation. It's a really bad situation whenever we have no radio communications. It's dangerous that we have no radio communications with our dispatch in those instances. And we're just wanting an update. We're wanting an update. We're wanting a time frame. We've asked. I know it's been taken to ETAB. It's been discussed at Upshur County Firefighter Association meetings with people that are in the know and are able to make this happen present, and it falls on deaf ears. It seems like the people that are able to make this happen, there is no action. It's just constantly that there's a reason. And I'm not going to go into great detail, but there's been other instances with other situations I know have been brought up that the same thing has happened. It seems like there's no action in areas of concern. Another one's been size ups. We've asked numerous times. Back 3 years ago, whenever I was on ETAB, that was a big thing. We asked for all the dispatchers, if I mark up on scene and say, comm center, I've got a 2-vehicle T-bone type collision, 3 patients, give me 2 more ambulances, relay that information. It was not being relayed. To this date, it's still not being relayed. The people that are in these positions to make this action happen, it's like it's falling on deaf ears. And the one we're coming to you today over is this wireless link. I know that you said Steve's coming in later. You probably can't give me an answer right now, but we would like a date that this is going to be completed by, because it's gone too long, and it's just as any other incident, any other major incident, over time, we forget how easy we forget.
Well, we certainly will bring this up. And the other thing I might say to everyone here in relationship to that, when a situation like that drag on, just contact the commission office as those incidents. The same way as any of you have problems with the dispatchers, the policy is just put it in writing, give the dates, the incidents, get it to the commission, because we haven't gotten anything in writing for, I know, 2 or 3 years. It's been at least 2 years since we've gotten anything. And I know in listening to people that there's problems out there. So what we ask you to do, just put it in writing, give the incident, the time, what the situation is, and then that way we're knowledgeable of it.
Absolutely.
And then we'll take action.
Only fair to you all.
And same way with these issues, if they drag on, just contact the commission office, give us the details on it, and then we'll check into it, and so that things don't drag on. Because a lot of this stuff could be very simply handled, but the the results of it not being handled can be catastrophic.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
And so, let us know what's going on. If there's issues like that, just let us know. And I sure will certainly look at it and let you know what the situation is.
Okay. Guys, I'd like to just thank you again today for your support and for hearing us out. And as you can see, there's a lot of other guys here that care. I'm just the one that's talking today, so.
Need to prove.
That's scary.
That's not saying a whole lot for the rest of the crowd. Does anybody else have any questions for we?
You gentlemen have any questions? Well,
I think all three of these issues needs to be addressed. Sooner is better than later, you know what I mean? So somebody needs to get on. But like you say, there is problems out there. We know we got problems with 911. We know, and I've heard problems with dispatch. We're trying to address some of them issues, but until you get it to us, sometimes we don't know it other than just, well, we didn't get the call right, or there's a fire on Meade Street, or I had a heart attack, but they wouldn't approve me to run on, you know what I mean? So we need to know that. We'll address it.
There's problems everywhere. We just got to open up the lines of communication.
right. There you go. Well, thank you all for coming in.
Thank you.
Let's take a 5-minute recess. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. We have our public hearing amendment to enhance 911 ordinance, increase current monthly fee from $2.65 to the following. Residential, $4.50, business Centrex, $6.50. And we'll begin by asking Mr. Parker to review the information, and then we'll take public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Tenney. Just as the commissioners are probably aware, but I'll just throw out the information that we've had in the past. The original ordinance was adopted in September 22nd of 1988, and the fee started at 90 cents at that time. There was an amendment in February of 92 that did not increase the fee. It just changed the ordinance, a minor change the ordinance. In May 26, 1993, there was an amendment to increase the fee from 90 cents to $1.65. And then in 1997, there was another amendment to increase it to $1.90. And then in 2005, there was an amendment to increase it to $2.65, is where it currently is. The information that Ms. Pomeroy is passing out is just a summary of the estimated current revenues and expenditures, and what the additional increase, the increase in additional revenue that would bring in. Currently, our landline revenue is approximately $275,000 on an annual basis. The wireless that is distributed by the Public Service Commission on a quarterly basis is just under $500,000 at this point, so I've rounded that up to $500,000 for a total of $775,000 of available revenue right now. If the commission would approve the increase, the landline revenue would go from $275,000 to approximately $500,000 also, for a total increase of approximately $225,000. The current annual expenditures, when I put this sheet together, you have that information listed there. The compensation for the 911 center and the reimbursement for the time spent on addressing and mapping by the commission staff, those total $450,000. Payroll related is $112,500. Medical, life, other insurance coverage is $130,000, and that will now be about $140,000 on the new fiscal year. When I put this together, it was we didn't know what the increase was, and then also the retirement will be going up also. So the payroll related will be going up also. So you have the total payroll estimated right now at $692,500. That'll be over $700,000 with the increases in retirement and insurance. your debt service number there of $130,500. Phone utilities, $62,250. Maintenance and equipment, $42,250. Advertising and dues, $5,000. Travel and training, $10,000. And miscellaneous is $7,500. Our total estimated cost of current operations at the time I put this sheet together was approximately $950,000. That did not include any of the expenditures for the emergency medical dispatch, anything associated with that, as the note said there, or the increase in retirement or other payroll, and then the insurance, because we didn't know what they would be at that time. So those are the numbers that working off of the history that I've put together and the history of the fee itself since inception. And we have advertised, originally, as you gentlemen know, this was scheduled for February, but due to an error on the staff's part, we did not have a meeting that day, so we had to reschedule it for today, and then it was re-advertised in the papers accordingly. So the matter of the hearing is before the commission at this time.
Okay. And I might just say, in relationship to the new 911 center, the background, a little history on that was that we were getting very crowded in there, and we had an architect to look at that and see what would be involved in expanding the existing 911 center, and with all the requirements, the building requirements, that has to be basically a bomb shelter, that if a building fell on it, it has to withstand the weight of any building close enough to fall on it. And the recommendation was that it would be just about as cheap to build a new building and put it on a piece of property that it was far enough away and would be able to maintain the distance from any building, which reduced the cost of the structure and how sound and strong it had to be. And so that was a decision in building the new 911 center. We have some folks here to speak, and the first one I have, Jerry, I don't know if you want to be first. You said you were second, but you're the only one on the list.
I'd ask Willie for, but if need be, I'm ready to speak.
We'll leave that up to you. If you want to be first, you're certainly welcome, because Jerry's been here for 2 years waiting for this day, and we
No, not really. Good morning,
Morning.
Ladies and gentlemen. I have several questions, and I don't know whether I'll get any answers today or not, but I guess I can always ask them. This raise, I think it's kind of exorbitant. I can't see jumping a fee up to the residents by 63%. I thought maybe a smaller raise would take care of it, but I guess maybe not. Also, the business lines, the people that are paying for them, they're going to be paying a 145% increase. And of course, this comes to approximately per month for landlines, $33,750, $405,000 per year. On the business lines, that's $7,800 per month, and a total of $93,600 per year, for a total of $498,600 per year coming in a fee, and with the PSC also adding $500,000 to that, it comes out to approximately $998,600. I mean, these are all approximates. As people, I think as these raises go into effect, that you'll probably be losing some of these landlines. They'll be going to other means of communication. but if they can do it cheaper, I don't blame them. And, I mean, we all like to have all services that we can have, which I enjoy and I'm sure everybody else enjoys. But I know this, Mr. Parker told me that of the bill that, well, the $998,000 that'll be used to pay labor, Social Security, retirement, insurance for the employees, loan on the building, the land, and the drawing up of the, or the planning of the structure, and redoing the slip behind the building. And I mean, I have no idea what that comes to, but he says that we have approximately a 20-year loan on that. And will it be paid off in 20 years? I don't know. I mean, will we have another slip? Are we going to repair the cracks or the breaks in the building? That's going to cost money. Or is somebody else going to pay that? I know that there is a moratorium on addressing and mapping at this time. I do not see why Terry Jo would have an assistant when there is a moratorium on, and back when she was doing all the work, she did not have an assistant. And another thing that I think there, that if, that's the 911 building up there, move her office to that building. Use this for commission, other commission business. Move her desk, books, records, phones, the whole works up there. And it would be, I think it would be cheaper. Also, I'd like to know if any of this fee will be used for anything other than paying on 911, anything at all. Any wages or any other maintenance or anything. And I know Mr. Rafferty and I were talking a while ago, and he says that it would not be, but I'd like to hear it from the three horses' mouths. But I know you cannot speak for somebody on down the road either. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Well, just to answer, if I might, just answer that question. Are you talking about if it's used for anything other than all the expenses at the 911 center? Is that what you're saying? Well, it does pay.
I know it pays for Terry.
Right, right.
And addressing and mapping.
Right. But
other than that,
yeah.
That's nothing else should be designated.
Right. That's
to use
right.
that money.
It's the operation of the comm center and the addressing and mapping project.
Actually, the ordinance is outlined, and I think I've included that in the agenda, but there's 8 items specified in the ordinance that it can be used for, and that does bind future commissions. And that would be, if it's used outside of that, then the auditor would require a payment, a reimbursement to the 911 fee for whatever fund that was used, used to cover that expense. If it was used to pay a Curry library bill, a coding error, mistake, intentional, otherwise, whatever, then the auditor's office would require that to be reimbursed. So it does bind future commissions, the ordinance does, unless they change it.
Yeah. Also, I mean, if you run under the amount of fee and you cannot pay the bills with the fee, will you be using taxes to keep this up, or what? Does that go into effect, or are you waiting until next month and you get some more fee money in and pay the bills and
You know, the purpose is for the 911 fee to pay for the operations of the 911 center and operations. Right now, the reimbursements are behind because our landline revenues have declined over the past year and a half to whatever the case may be, by approximately about 30%. So currently the general county fund is upfronting, if you want to call it, or forwarding money until the 911 fee can make their reimbursements. And if it continues, if the increase is not approved, or if it continues to decrease, then it will require tax monies to offset part of the operation cost.
well, then that answers the question why the fee is so exorbitant at this time. Is that correct? The 63% and the 145 to catch up.
It's 58%, 63%. I've been a while since I ran those numbers. Similar when we had a fee in the past, it was, I ran those earlier, it was a 55% increase at one time a number of years ago. And it's right, it's, to catch up either past expenditures or, if the landlines are declining, or if we have capital expenditures which we know are upcoming or whatever the case may be, then it's to get self-sufficient, hopefully again, yes.
In other words, taxes, if we get behind with the fees, the taxes will catch it up for the time being. But the fee money does not go back to pay to take care of any taxes that have been paid out.
Right now, for example, our payroll reimbursements, all the payroll must run through general county fund. That's one of the things every payroll check is issued from the general fund account, the general account. And then the various departments that have fees associated, whether it be, the 911 fee or the Curry Parker Library or the Upshur County Youth Camp, whatever departments, maybe have a reimbursement, then we have normally a quarterly reimbursement that the payroll department issues and then reimburses the general county fund for that. Home confinement, I know right now is behind, the dog and kennel fund is behind, 911 fee is behind. So those reimbursements are lagging and are not current up to the current quarter because of the lagging revenue in those other funds. Mm-hmm. So the general county fund has had to upfront that money and carry it, so to speak, until if and when the fees ever, general dog and kennel is probably the most behind. I mean, it's years behind because it generates very little money, but we carry it as an obligation, so we can show the auditor that there's money due general county fund from dog and kennel. If, for example, the state would increase the dog tax and it would generate more money, then we'd be able to recoup your tax dollars.
I understand. Also, I have some questions about the building and where the building's at and so forth. Is that building safe? Is it, I mean, if you had a group come in here that wanted to take it over, it looks to me like it wouldn't be very hard to do. I don't know where your air intakes are or anything like that, but there's phone lines exposed on the outside. And I don't know about the radio transmission lines, but there's a lot of things that's sitting outside that could be destroyed and you would be out of business. I don't know how many people's looked at that or anything, but it would be mighty easy to do. Not that I'm planning on doing anything, but it just, when you do things like this, you got to look and plan. And I don't think all the planning was done several years ago that needed to be done on this. So, do you have water, food to support a half a dozen people for any length of time? It's, if you're in a hostile environment, what do you have? Also, as time goes on and all the residents, I've already heard some residents say something about dropping their landline. Well, I know that if they drop their landline, they're going to go to a cell phone, more than likely, and they'll be paying a tax there. But it's either going to be a fee or a tax, one of the two. And will this come back to reimburse you from the PSC? Or can you tell me on that?
Well,
Like
what was your-
if say I get rid of my landline and get a cell phone. I know that the cell phone tax is higher than what my landline fee is. Would PSC pay, bring that on?
The difference?
a portion of the cell phone fees comes back to the county.
Okay.
So as that increases, that will
As one
increase.
goes down, the other is going to go up.
Right.
Okay.
Your cell phone revenue, though, as the landlines have decreased, and even though the cell phones have increased, it has not offset that loss. Because I think if I remember correctly, the cell phone fee is $3.
$2.65.
For the cell phones I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Cell phones is $3 on
it's the cell
monthly
phones,
bill. And it's $2.65 right now for the landline fee, so they're comparable. But of that $3, the county does not get all of that.
Okay.
I think it's $1.18 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
But you would be getting something back.
Yeah, we get something back, but as the cell phones go up, if there's a corresponding decrease in landlines, then the overall revenue will go down.
Have you taken into consideration this mandate we're going to be going into in July, where the federal government is going to require the 3 dispatchers, or it might already be into effect, I do not know. But is this fee to help pay their wages also, or will there be another increase after that mandate?
Well, our goal has been to have 3 dispatchers. Now, being able to keep that many dispatchers, because you'll hire 5 and maybe 1 will stay, and it's a very high turnover, and a lot of it's because of that type of job and the stress of it and that whole aspect of it. But our goal has been to have 3 dispatchers, and that partly is in response to the fact that we know when this medical dispatch comes in, then it's going to tie up your dispatchers a lot more because of the requirements of that.
Yeah.
And so, the budgeting has been with that goal in mind. Like I say, we've not attained it. I'm not sure. Steve could probably answer now how close we are to our goal, but
with hiring 2 additional employees to fill in the gap to the left, that we would be at full force then, and we should be able to keep 3 per shift.
Will you be able to keep your overtime down also?
Well, the overtime is a function of sick leave. Usually that's where we use most of it. Somebody calls in sick, and there just isn't anyone now to fill it, so we have to use someone that's already scheduled 40 hours to fill in the gap.
Anytime that you have enough people to take care of your overtime, you generally have enough people to take care of vacations too. And everybody's going to get 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks a year. And I don't know whether you have any.
We just don't have that. We can't continually keep that many people on payroll.
But it's cheaper to keep more of them on the payroll than it is to pay the overtime too.
You've noticed we've advertised so many times this year, and it's a very difficult job and people leave.
I have a little problem. This past Monday evening, I was sick. I called my son to come over to the house. I was there by myself. And he asked me if I'd like to go to the hospital. I said, yeah. So he said, do you want to go to prompt care or to right into the emergency room? And I said, I would prefer to go right into the emergency room where I could find out what my problem is. So he called 911, and they gave him my address. It's 11 Morgan Edition. And my address has been changed to 90 Little Sand Run Road. But I was told not to use that until I received a letter from the Postal Service. So I haven't. But the dispatcher sent the ambulance to 11 Morgan Edition, which they went up the river. And I live almost across from Rouse Furniture. And, well, between him and talking to the dispatcher, they finally got to my house. And nothing happened other than I was just a little bit longer getting to the hospital. But anyhow, that's, I don't know what is going on here, because some of the people say that their address has been changed. They have received a letter from the Postal Service. And I know you have nothing to do with that. None of you. And if it's, maybe I need to go check with Uncle Sam. I don't know. But anyhow, I just wanted to throw that in there, that has not happened yet. And now that I see where some of these things are running behind, I don't think that the fee increase is quite as absorbent as I thought it was. But I know we have to pay our bills. It don't make any difference whether it's in government, it's at home, or where. We have to pay our bills to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, who wants to be next? Not everybody at once.
I'd like to take a moment, though. Terry Jo, could you address Jerry's question? Has there been any issues with the post office notifying everybody relative to their new addresses? Because Jerry's indicated he hasn't received a letter from the post office. I know that's not your responsibility, but my understanding was that they went by zip codes, and the 26201 zip code had been released to the new addressing system. Is this just an error, you think, on the part of the Postal Service not getting him, or is there a section of 26201 not been addressed yet?
I can't actually answer that. Like you said, that's the United States Postal Service. I can tell you that our addresses have been in effect since 2009. At no time would Mr. Kimball have been told, if he knows what his physical address is, not to use that for emergency service response. He would have been told not to use that for mail delivery until he's notified by the United States Postal Service. It was my understanding in January, February timeframe that the Buchanan Post Office, the 26201 zip code, was released to the general public, and those addresses were changed. I've had more than just the knowledge of this one particular here today that said they have not received a letter. I have sent numerous correspondence back and forth through the local post office as well as through Charleston to see what the situation is, and I'm not really getting any response. So I really can't answer that as far as for mail delivery goes. But as far as a physical address for 911 purposes, people need to begin using those, not waiting for a letter from the United States Postal Service to change their mailing address, because those physical addresses have been in effect since 2009 in Upshur County.
So you should use then, Jerry, presumably the Sand Run address. Is that correct?
Yes.
Joe, you
For
want to talk
emergency
next?
purposes.
No, I just want to say what they need, what the county needs to do, put a public service announcement or something out with the papers and the media to tell people to use their 911 address. You know, for emergency.
We did that back some time ago on Channel 5, Channel 12, Channel 3, all the papers, and encouraged people to make sure the letter you got to come to the commission office, make sure the letter you got from the post office, the address is correct, because some of them are not. Your official address is what is in the commission office, so.
I guess you're just not going to reach some people.
Well, that's a problem. Okay.
And if I can follow up on a couple other things that Mr. Kimball mentioned that I would like to follow up on.
Well, why don't you step up here so they can see your face?
There was some discussion I mentioned about having an assistant. I don't personally have an assistant that works with the addressing and mapping project exclusively. As the commission knows, we have an administrative assistant who does help with the addressing and mapping project, but she also does help with commission duties, as well as I still help with commission duties. So the concept of moving my office to the 911 center, I don't think is really a practical idea, simply because I still do commission business in my current capacity. I don't just work on addressing and mapping. I do also building permits and floodplain ordinance permitting, things like that, as well as administrative assistant duties for the county commission as well. I do keep track of my hours. Anybody could look at my timesheet. It's split up, so the number of hours that I work on addressing and mapping is recorded. The number of hours that I work on administrative assistant duties is for the commission office is recorded, as well as the floodplain and building permits are recorded. So my pay is divided for that reason. So just so everybody in the general public knows, I don't have an assistant that does addressing and mapping exclusively. She's an assistant that does work for the county commission just as well as myself does.
And the purpose of her assisting you is that when you're in the field,
Exactly.
doing your work in the field, signing those addresses,
Right.
if someone should come in and need assistance in getting an address or other matters, she's in a position to help because.
And even our county assistant administrator, Megan, also helps with the addressing and mapping project as well with issuing out addresses for residents when they come in.
Right. We try to avoid having the public come in seeking information or assistance and not having someone here to assist them.
Ron, did you have a comment?
Yeah, the office for Terry Jo, does the E911 fees, does that center reimburse the county for office space that she takes up here in the courthouse?
No, the only reimbursement that we have for addressing and mapping is there's a vehicle that we utilize that all the costs are directly charged to the 911 fund as it relates to gas, oil, maintenance, etc. The only other reimbursement is the payroll, and we reimburse the hours that are tracked by Ms. Bennett and Ms. Carr. Ms. Carr is a part-time administrative assistant that Terry was referring to, and we do not charge any Ms. Pomeroy's time to the 911 fee as it relates to addressing and mapping duties, or any, if I would by chance happen to be doing any of those duties, none of my salary would be charged to that. Just off the top of my head, without doing a lot of research, approximately probably 45 to 50% of Ms. Bennett's time is spent and will be charged to addressing and mapping, and then the other is building permits, floodplain are the two other big areas, and then commission duties still also. Ms. Carr here recently, since the 26201, especially since French Creek and 26201 have been released, we've been hit with a lot of people coming in verifying their address, even once they received the letter from the post office, because we have found some that are incorrect. There's some that are incorrect. For whatever reason, there will be mistakes made. So, we've had times when there's been, 4 or 5 people waiting, to verify that. So it's probably, similar amount for Ms. Carr's time recently has been spent
Okay,
in
well,
that.
what I was getting to, Mr. Parker, was just the fact that it used to be that we could charge certain entities rent per square foot for what they took up.
The commission could.
Seems to me like
yeah.
there would be more benefit and probably more expensive to move Terry Jo out to the 911 center than it would be just to leave her where she is. And the other question I had was, did the National Guard, are they the ones that did the prep work on the site, or was that done by contractor?
That was done by the contractor through our architect coordinated
Are they
that.
responsible for the slip for repairing that?
We purchased an improved site from the entity that we purchased the property fund from. We did not deal with the contractor. The architect did that. The architect was responsible for that, and the commission and he worked out that agreement of who was responsible for the reimbursement of those costs. That cost was $25,000 is what it was to stabilize as a result of that slip on putting those anchors down in. That was a $25,000 cost, which the architect absorbed that and worked out an agreement with the commission and how to handle that.
Okay, who would like to be next? Tim, come on up.
You know me, I like show and tell.
Is that off your bicycle or?
No, that is what should be over my phone line. What's currently covering it is a trash bag.
Tim. Oh, thank you.
Maybe they had to use a trash bag because you took that, Tim.
That was laying at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
At the bottom of the hole, and they can't get on that.
Okay.
So I have just a few concerns. First off is, if you're going to raise this fee, are you going to guarantee me that I will have a phone? And the reason I say that is because in 2012, I had approximately 10 months worth of phone. Now, why am I a little concerned about the pictures, with the trash bag over it? Everybody knows trash bag, will disintegrate in the sun. That piece of equipment right there that's supposed to be over that line, I put a repair order in November, the end of November, after I was without the phone for 3 weeks. So, don't come back on me and saying, have you called the phone company? Phone man came by, I stopped him one day, and I said, hey, look at this. Oh, he said, I'll get that taken care of right away. That was in December. So, question, are you going to guarantee me that I will have a phone?
I believe that.
And I assume that the answer is going to be no. So, at that particular point, I needed 911 last year twice. And I pretty much assume that everybody knows the story of Wendy getting hit. And so I left the house at 8:30 in the morning on November 1st. Trees were still falling. It took me an hour and 25 minutes to walk down the 8/10 of a mile. And then I had to walk another about a mile and a half before a four-wheeler picked me up. Took me to the store. They had a signal on a cell signal, but of course the tower was knocked out. So a gentleman drove me up to the fire hall, and the lady that lives there at Rock Cave, she gave us some coffee, and one of the guys came in, and I said, I need some help. And he said, well, you got to call 911. We can't get toned out unless you call 911. And I said, well, I haven't found a phone. He said, use this one. Well, fortunately, it worked. Now, how, I don't know, because everything around in southern Upshur County was on the ground. So the second question I have is, if there was no phone at the fire hall, and that happened again, which under our current climate changes seems to be happening a little bit more frequently, and I couldn't call 911 to get them to tone out, what would have happened? Can you explain that? Well, I mean, they can't, I guess, legally take the truck out of the fire hall without being toned out. So how would that have worked? Anyway, to get back to my story, from 8:30 in the morning, it wasn't until 3:30 in the afternoon that my wife was finally transported to the hospital. Now, I realize I know where I live. I'm in a pretty rugged area, but that was pretty catastrophic to me. So, 2 questions. Are you guaranteeing me a phone? And if I can't use the phone anywhere because all the lines are down, the towers are out, cell towers are out, how do you rectify that to get toned out, to get an emergency vehicle to take care of something?
Well, the phone company is regulated by the Public Service Commission. So there's your response to that question. Your other one, I'm not sure what the policy and procedure, Steve, maybe you can address that. If as to a fire department they can't go out on a call unless it's through 911. I mean, I don't know what the procedure is
I know
there.
Buchanan gets direct calls sometimes, and then they notify us, and they go ahead and go out, and then they just notify us.
That would be up to the
But I have
fire
heard in the
department.
fire association meetings when I've attended that there's something about being dispatched out for their workers' compensation policy to take effect. Now, I don't know any particulars. I've just heard those comments while I've been at fire meetings.
That would be up to each individual fire department, because there are some liability issues as it relates to liability and workers' compensation of when that would kick in, of whether they're on an official call or not. So that's probably why they said that. Don't know, but that's what I would assume. And like Mr. Linger, that's really beyond the county commission's control and purview.
Well, and would it not be that if the comm center can tone out a fire department, there's communications from the comm center to the fire department? So could you use those same communications if, say, Tim or someone was at the fire department, could you not use those same communications to contact the comm center and say, would you please tone us out for this incident? Would that not be possible? Use the radio system? So that seems like that would be the solution.
Is my recollection that on that particular day, the gentleman that was there said, you have to call 911. I can't do it.
Well,
so,
but
I mean, you know, that may be basically
right,
thanks district,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I would think that you could call 911 on the radio system at the firehouse. As long as you're contacting 911, I don't think they care if it's a radio or a telephone or a cell phone or whatever. That would be the simplest solution to that. But, you know, the 2 storms we had this summer, we can certainly appreciate and sympathize with the people on the East Coast and what they went through and are still going through when you have that kind of a catastrophic 2 events in one summer. You know, it's just hard to deal with it. I mean, you do the best you can, and I understand, and fortunately you got your wife out, and you know, she's doing better, but you know, there's sometimes when you have storms like that, you're at the mercy of the storm, and you do the best you can, which you did. You know, you trudged out, and that's about all you can do. You can either stay there or and in that situation, the damage was so extensive that the best thing to do is go out, because there are going to be a lot of other places, if they don't know, that there's help that's needed. So hope that helped a little bit, Tim. I know it's not a good situation, but there were a lot of people that are in that, and across America, in the course of a year, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are in situations like that they're totally desperate, and you can understand and sympathize with their frustrations.
And just on your loss of revenue from this increase, I've already had one business owner that has 6 landlines that said if it goes up, he will drop 5.
Well, no, I'm sure, because
you know, and looking at this, you know, between my business and my home, the increase that you're going to put on there in 3 months will wipe out my COLA for Social Security for the year. Thank you very much. So, You know, that's supposed to be a cost of living across the board, so it can take care of everything. Well, you're gonna wipe mine out in 3 months, just on that raise.
Right.
So, you know, I don't really know what the answer is, but, you know, I depend on a landline because there is no cell signal down there. So, I have to have it. And that 2 months that I was without, that was during sunny days. That was, I mean, there would be days I would get phone service for 3 days and it would be off for 12 hours. Frontier has a log on me for repair orders that must be 4 pages long for all of the calls I've had to make.
Have you contacted the Public Service Commission relative to the issue?
What's the point? I can make a general, you know.
Well, the Public Service Commission is,
Right.
Mr. Tenney indicated, is the oversight, provides oversight for the telephone company. The county commission does not.
Right. I understand that, but, you know, have you made a complaint at the Public Service Commission? If you haven't, it's hell to pay when you do it. And, you know, I've already done it. Don't like doing it. You know, try and work it through with Verizon. They're the people that are supposed to take care of it. So, you know, I'm the last guy on the line on a 25 pair cable. You know, that's 50 phones on that to carry on that line. I'm the last house down that has a phone. So, you know, so consequently, when everything else goes out, who's the last guy that gets fixed? Me. So, you know, and I'll admit it, I'm getting older. My neighbors are way older than I am, you know, and we rely on that phone. So, you know, eventually it's going to happen. One of us is going to have an issue where we have to have somebody there. If the phone doesn't work, well, that's, you know, tough luck. I mean, and there was no way of us, even if I had a 4-wheel drive, that was 3.5 feet of wet snow on that day.
It was widespread. Okay, well,
But anyway, I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
for your
Tim.
time.
Thank you. Jerry, you're next. He's back there raring to go.
If you got any pull with phone company,
Okay.
just back up.
Right, here's your photographs.
Next time they come to
You can keep them.
I just got a couple questions.
That's a little memory.
Why would you buy land to build this 911 center when you already had land?
Where did we already have land?
The airport? Plenty of room up there, you could have built up there.
Land's not owned by the county commission, and land's owned by the airport authority, and,
Which is part of the county commission.
no, it's a separate legal entity, their own legal entity, and I don't know if it would have been approved by the FAA, nor do I know what the requirements are. We'd have to investigate of what the center would have to sustain in the event of helicopter air traffic around it. I mean, not saying it couldn't be done, but.
And then the other question is, your figures here on these pages that you passed out today does not match what was in the newspaper.
Which figures is that, Jerry? Is different.
Well, your current estimate was only $725,000 in the paper, and your estimate expenses for next year was only $739,625. Now you come up with $950,000. So that's a big difference in your estimated expenses.
I don't know. I don't have the paper in front of me.
I'd have to go back and read the article. I don't know, we may have been talking about compensation and payroll related and expected insurance. I just don't remember. I mean, it very well may have been, you know.
Jerry's got a copy there.
Total 911 expenses, you had $739,625.
That's the publication for the general county budget.
It appears to be so.
That doesn't include expenditures directly from the 911 fund. That's the only, I'd have to look and see. Those are expenditures that are directly from the general county fund. These are the estimates for the upcoming fiscal year.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are payroll.
They're different from the ones you have here.
Right, yeah, this is only payroll and payroll related. This has no expenditures that does not include debt service, does not include phone utilities, maintenance equipment, advertising, training, travel, or miscellaneous. The only thing it includes is payroll related expenses.
Where's the other listed on here then?
They're not public. That is the general county budget that's to be published. That's what's required by state code to be published, is the general county total severance budget for the next fiscal year.
But if I seen this would, what I would think would be the whole expense for 911 is what you have here in the paper.
It's not, it's only payroll related. That's what the expenditures are out of general county.
Well, that ought to say payroll for 911 then, instead of 911 expenses.
Very well may should have.
It is kind of misleading as far as this hearing goes.
Very well, I could understand the confusion. Me dealing with it every day,
Yeah.
it's too familiar sometimes. You know, we try to put that out there, but it's in the format that the state requires. I'm not saying it's sufficient enough detail for somebody that doesn't deal with it on a regular basis, but that is just the estimated expenditures. That's our budget, estimated budget for 911 payroll-related expenditures for next year.
Payroll-related expenditures would be insurance.
Payroll, insurance, retirement, social security, workers' compensation, etc.
Okay, you folks on the back, did you all want to
I
talk?
have a question.
Okay, go right ahead.
7 years ago, and now I realize that things change in 7 years, even 2 years. But when my husband died on our back porch, I called 911. They never did, squad never did come. As a matter of fact, when I was pulling out my driveway, they called, or my neighbor, wanted to know if I still needed them. And I said, tell them yes if they were here, but I can be at the hospital before they get here. And I was. How is this 911 thing going to improve that situation?
Well, I guess that would depend on whether that was a comm center dispatching issue or whether that was an emergency squad issue. I mean, they're two different issues. The other thing I can say is all the money that's been spent on the addressing and mapping project and all the money that's been spent on the upgrades and staffing of the communications center is to help prevent problems just like that, because that's the purpose of all this, is to be able to get the emergency services delivered. And there, you know, when you have humans involved, there's always going to be mistakes, but this commission's resolve is to do everything we can to make sure that when someone needs help, that it gets there as fast as possible in order to provide that.
Well, to me, everyone in Upshur County should know where the hospital's going, and we live right there.
Yeah.
Ma'am, at the time of this incident 7 years ago, did you have a rural address or a street address? Were you like a route number box?
We had a route number.
See, that is what Mr. Tenney is indicating. The purpose of this is that every formerly rural street address or formerly rural route address has a street number that is unique to that location, not only by number, but also by mileage from the main intersecting road. For example, my address has changed, but my new number address is 235. That signifies to the medical responders or law enforcement or fire that my residence is 2.3 tenths of a mile from Brushy Fork Road on the road that I live. They will know in their mind from those numbers, as this progresses along, they will determine when they see an address of a certain street or road, they will know that that residence they're looking for is a specific distance from the main intersection of the main highway or spur from that.
Adam understand that, but also at the same time, I understand that if you have a breakdown between 911 and emergency squad, that's not going to help.
Oh, certainly, that is the case. No question about that.
Okay, does, you have something?
I just have two comments.
All right, well, why don't you step up here? We're paying for this podium, we want to utilize it.
All right.
That's right.
The fee is only going to landline and cell phone customers. You're saying that you collect $3 per cell phone bill, but only $1.18 of it comes back for the
Right,
E911?
the state collects the cell phone fee and then gives a portion back to the counties, right?
That is set by the state legislature, the fee for wireless, and then the distribution is handled through the Public Service Commission, is the one that distributes the money according to the formula. So much to the state police, so much to Tower Construction Fund, and wherever else, and then so much back to the counties.
Okay. The other thing is, I mean, everybody in the whole county benefits from having an E911 center. What you're doing is, though, parlaying the cost off to only those folks who either own a telephone or a cell phone. There are other folks in this county, and I don't understand why it has to be why it's a telephone bill issue. Why is it not covered out of the county funds? I read the code and it said it can be set up to come off of phone lines, but why is it not taken out of the normal? I mean, there's not an E9 or there's not a sheriff's fee on my phone bill. It comes out of the regular county money. Why does this have to go that route? And would it not be more logical to put it as part of the regular county budget so that you get more people who are benefiting from the services paying for the services?
Well, I mean, I think there could be an argument made to that. I mean, I think in the years past, George Racing sitting back there probably when this first was developed, and I think it was just because it was source of revenue, probably, George, right? And it was something you could count on at the time, and it was just dedicated to that. I mean, it's the same way with, if you get a traffic ticket, if you're driving and get a speeding ticket, you're going to pay 1 day's per diem to regional jail. Now, that doesn't seem fair, does it? I mean, you got a traffic ticket for speeding, you're not going to jail, but you're paying 1 day's per diem. And what happens a lot of times in those situations is the government's looking for some way, just basically to get new revenue to support something. And that, and I think it kind of alludes back to what Tim was saying. I guess the logic was you use your phones to call 911, and so that's where you pay for that.
I suspect also part of the thought process when the legislation was enacted was that the legislature did not want to have to identify a source of funds to operate a collection agency. So, but what better way to do it than to compel through the Public Service Commission and other means to have the telephone company do the administrative work, the overhead cost of collecting the money for you, so that another government agency or was not established in order to monitor or collect the funds. It was all handled by the phone companies who better to give the responsibility to collecting the money, and so that was probably part of the but taking an argument that you're making there, and I can understand it, is indicate, and we've thought about it ourselves, is we would have to then consider increasing taxes in some other area in order to impose the revenue or obtain the revenue from the wider range of people. And that, of course, is not popular either. So public service, or I should say, county government or government in general has responsibility. And we can argue for hours, and I may very well accept much of the argument that is made today that government is engaged in too many activities, because I'm a taxpayer like you are. But public safety, I don't think anyone will dispute that public safety is a primary responsibility of government. You can't own your own fire department. You can't own your own police department or emergency squad. So that is something we as a community, as a county, as a state, as a nation, are compelled to support and provide those services to the public.
I guess my point is, if you have a wreck on Career H, you don't have a cell phone, you don't have a landline, they're still going to respond, they're still going to pick you up,
Certainly.
but you're not paying for the service.
Certainly. I understand that.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions, comments, or Dirk, you?
I thank you for your input.
Do what?
No,
He hasn't thanked you yet,
Well,
Dirk.
thanking
He
you,
will
Dirk.
when you get through talking.
In looking over the money figures on the sheet of paper that was passed out, most of this doesn't strike me as anything that I need to take notice of till we get down to the annual expenditures on the item that says maintenance and equipment, $42,250 annually. That is not nearly enough money to be budgeted annually to the maintenance and improvement of the equipment that's involved in our public safety dispatching in this county. We have the dispatch consoles up at the comm center right now that they've had now for a few years, but those things are aging like everything else. And that equipment is not cheap. $42,000 won't touch that. $42,000, I don't know what the maintenance contract on that Lloyd's has, Willie, but it's, you know, the maintenance contract I'm sure is not cheap either.
$316.25 a month.
Steve can't budget to plan ahead for his improvement of his equipment over a period of time with this amount of money. He can't even plan for anything with this. The radio equipment that dispatches our fire department's 40 years old up at the tower. 40 years old. You know, we've recently been able to improve the sheriff's department system and the emergency squad system, and with the installation of the West Virginia Interoperable Radio Network, we've made vast improvements with some of the equipment there, but there's some of it still that needs done. The next generation 911, that is coming upon us quickly. That's very new technology that they haven't even quite figured out exactly what it's going to be yet. That's going to be big bucks for us. We need to plan now and put money into an account to have the funds to implement that when it comes available. Next, FirstNet is the newest generation of communication services that's going to be providing advanced information for the emergency responder in the field, where he can take his PDA or his smartphone, whatever, and pop up the location of the resident, what the floor plans of the plant is, where all the sprinkler system valves are, whatever the case may be, and let them know right there on the scene right now in the entire thing of the scope of the whole event. We have to plan for that, and to figure $42,250 as a maintenance and equipment fund, it's a travesty. In the mid-1970s, when George Racing was on the county commission and Ron Pugh was the county clerk and Bob Musselwhite was the county administrator, I was lucky enough to be hired as the first person employed at the comm center for Upshur County. And a lot of people don't remember that this comm center in Upshur County was the first county-wide communication center in the state of West Virginia. And I know that during those period of times, as my memory serves me, the comm center was paid for by county funds. There was no 911 fee. In fact, 911 didn't even exist in 1976. And I think we've come a long way, and I think we need to keep what we have. It's a fine facility up there on the hill. I know it's had its problems, but it's something that we have that we can be proud of. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dirk.
sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, does anyone else have anything? All hearts clear? Okay, well, we thank you for your input, and we thank you for that history, Dirk. So you were the first dispatcher, huh? You remember hiring him, George? Was he the one that applied?
Don't remember that.
That's been a few years ago, hasn't it?
He qualified.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
You had the good sense to hire him.
His qualifications were only improved.
That's right. Okay, well, if there's no other comments, gentlemen, you all have any comments? Buddy, JC?
I'd just like to make a comment that I checked with all other counties surrounding us on how they did it. I know Lewis County charges $1.75 for the hard line. They dispatch for 2 counties. They get hard line service and cell service in 2 counties, plus they get a little donation from county commission. I checked with Ron Watson, president of the Harrison County, to see if they donated any money to the 911 to support their employees. They dispatch for 2 counties also. So I then talked to Mr. Wise, 911 director over in Randolph County, and see if they've got any, the county commission was supporting their 911, what was they doing on the 911 fees. And he said that they was doing the 911 fees that they collect, which is less than we're charging now. I also checked with Webster County, with the director up there, found out that they only run 2 dispatchers, and between 3 in the morning and 7, they only have 1 dispatcher. They pay a lot less than we do. They're able to operate with a little less money than we do because the employees pay 20% of their insurance in Webster County. They are trying to move. Also found out that mapping is done by the 911 employees. I asked him what happens if somebody called in sick, and he said, well, we've got somebody that will come in and work if somebody calls in sick to cover that slot. Also, they was thinking about building a new 911 center up there, which I was kind of interested in. I asked him what it was going to cost them per square foot. And he said when we first figured the project to build that 911 center that we wanted to build, it was a little over $4 million. Immediately we knew we couldn't afford that. So I came down here and did find out there's about 5,000 square feet in this building up here, if I've been told right. To build that building now would cost us approximately $300,000 or $400,000 more than it did back then. I'm not saying that building it where it is justified. I'm not saying that we should have bought that piece of ground up there, or built a 911 center up there, or may have not looked at the jail facility where we had dispatch before. I wasn't here then, but since we did it, we've got obligations to pay for it, if that helps any.
Okay, any other comments? If not, then I will ask for a motion that we approve the 911 fee increase as stated on the agenda and in the paper. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll move that we do that.
Second?
I'm going to second that due to what I learned from the other counties around us, that their 911 fee was paying for operations, so I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We thank you all for coming today and
Participating.